Okay, I'll make a video showing you how we take care of mixing up salt. So here in the back room there are two large mixing tanks. They're these big tall plastic tanks. So the one that's nearest us is a 250 gallon tank, and the one that's against the wall that has a weird shape is a 400 gallon tank. So between the two of those they can hold 650 gallons. So this one's the 250, that one's the 400. So water travels from the reverse osmosis unit up to and through this little valve, or this little meter here that tells us like how much water we're making per amount of time. Right now it says that we're doing like about 9 gallons per hour, just shy of 9 gallons per hour. The water travels through this valve, which we can shut off if we want to stop making water for the system, and it goes into the tank. That float valve there determines the water level in the tank, and right now the tank is full and it's the same water level as this tank over here. There's a water line that comes out of the side of the tank, this one, and it runs across and then into this tank here, and that's like an emergency set of pipes, or an emergency pipe, to make sure that if one tank accidentally gets too high for some reason, like there's an obstruction in the mixing pumps or whatever, that the water can be the same level in both tanks. We had that happen once, so this was put in as like a safety backup or whatever. Anyway, so water is being circulated between the tanks. At the bottom of the tanks there is an inlet, like down here, and water from both tanks is pumped by a pump that happens to be down here. I don't know if you can see it, but it's down against the wall. It comes up this pipe and splits, goes left into this tank and goes to the right across and into this tank here. It's the back pipe. So we're recirculating water between the two tanks, and that helps to kind of get things mixed up. The other two things that we do is right here on the other side of this magnet mount on the inside of the tank, there is a power head, and the power head is a pump that has a propeller that makes the water move around. And actually when you look into the tank here, you can see all that water motion, and that comes from the power head. This is the power head itself. The other thing that we do is water is drawn in from the bottom of the tank and pumped into the face of that yellow pump there, which is an Milwaukee pump. That water then comes up through this hose and through the that white line, and then in the tank here you can see that black thing that hangs down. That's an eductor, or from a certain brand called a penductor, and that eductor mixes the water in the tank as well. So here's the thing: we add water into the or add salt into the top of this tank here, and so the salinity in this tank is pretty high as the salt is added, but it gets mixed between the two tanks because water is taken into the bottom of the tanks and recirculated. So anyway, here's a big box of salt. This is Fritz Aquatics Reef Pro Mix. This is the blue box, which is the standard salt. We also use the red high alkalinity salt. And when we add the salt, there's a scoop. This is like an ice scoop. And then the salt just comes right on up, and then you just dump it in. And I want to dump it wherever the rate of mixing of the tank is the greatest. So wherever the flow is nice and high, that's a good place to add it. We don't want the salt to be all clumpy when it goes in. So by pouring it in where the power head is mixing pretty well, that gets it all mixed up pretty nice. To make the 3 boxes, or to make the 2 tanks up, 650 gallons, it takes a little bit more than 3 boxes of salt. So there's, about 20 scoops worth in an individual box. You just kind of have to go slow and just sort of add it in. And people are usually surprised by how much salt it takes, but that's the way we do it. As the salt mixes, I know the approximate amount of salt that's required to make the tanks up, and I'm aiming for a salinity of 1.026, and you can use a bunch of different methods to measure salinity, but my favorite instrument is the Milwaukee MA887 refractometer. It's super easy to use. You just turn it on, it does a little battery check, says specific gravity because that's the unit we got it on, And I've got ours all calibrated and whatnot, pretty nice. So I just dumped some salt into the tank. So this is not going to be a very good reading at all, but I can take a sample of it using a disposable pipette. You just put some sample on the top of the reading glass, or the sight glass, and then hit the read value, and it'll give us a value on here, 1.014. So I got quite a bit to go. I know I've only added a little bit more than, there's like 2.5 boxes of salt worth in there, or like 2 boxes of salt worth in there right now, maybe a little bit more, and I had some salt water left over from the last water change. So that value is pretty low, just to show you how it should end up to be. There's some other tanks over here that are running right now. I got to mix it a couple times just to make sure that I got the old water out, but I'm going to suck some water up, and this ought to come out to be pretty darn close to 1.026. Put it on the little sight, hit read, and we're at 1.025, so that's pretty close. There was a little bit of not so concentrated water on there, so let me suck that off again and give it one more shot. Maybe it'll be 1.025, maybe it'll come out to 1.026 this time. We just have to see. So one more time, hit the little read button. Oops, one more time. Here we go. 1.025. So it's a little bit low in that tank. That's not a big deal. That system is, or this system over here is mostly just clownfish and soft coral. 1.025 is more than sufficient. As long as we're in the ballpark, we're good. We always try to match the salinity between the tanks. So that's how we make the salt water.